Call of Duty Modern Warfare was released in 2019 and is by far one of the biggest first-person shooters to ever be released, and for good reason. Modern Warfare brings the series back to what made the series explode in the first place, and thoroughly examine what made it work. They decided to rather reboot the original Modern Warfare in a way, even though it is technically like a prequel to the original game. They rather reinvented how the shooting feels, and instead of hit-scan weapons, they actually travel to the target. At least that's what they claimed, since I can't really tell outside of snipers usually. The first major improvement can be seen with the campaign mode. The cutscenes alone are some of the best I've seen in a game to date, even though they're all pre-rendered. There's even some of the best nighttime levels in a game that I'll discuss later. They let you customize the weapons in multiplayer with tons of attachments and even weapon-specific perks, as well as the new killstreak list. Then they added a Battle Royale mode shortly after release, and is by far one of the most popular ones there is, and even made it free. And then there is the Special Operations mode. I honestly think this is the one major flop in this game, and I'm shocked since Spec Ops and Modern Warfare 2 is one of the best modes added to a game ever. With the rest of the game being solid all the way around, this mode stands out the most. It seems like a completely different team worked on it, and they didn't know what made the original one so great, but I'll come back to that later. Before I get started, I just want to mention that this is rather an analysis of the entire game, as well as a critique of what works and what doesn't work. Keep in mind, this is all also after the Season 5 update, and a lot of multiplayer has changed or received major updates since launch. So I'll briefly mention what it used to be like, but we'll focus on how it is now with all the updates added. I played every single Call of Duty in the mainline series, and I recently played all the ones released on current gen hardware in preparation for this video. Also a quick side note about the campaign, it is rather mature when it comes to some of the violence and themes shown, so just a heads up for some of the parts coming up later. I will note when those scenes are about to come up too. Lastly, if you haven't played a single player in this game yet, I will just quickly say it is probably the best grounded experience in a single player campaign, and I recommend playing it before seeing this section. With that, let's get to the story.
We are Al-Qatala. We are the killers.
The story starts off rather dark with a brief video showing you the leader of the Al-Qatala, the Wolf. The Al-Qatala is this universe's current terrorist group as you see some guys exit a van, one of which wearing a suicide vest in I believe London. Before anything happens, it cuts to a title card and shows you the first playable character, Alex. He's well voice acted and you also see the rather great pre-rendered cutscenes in effect. The first mission is you going to take down a factory warehouse that you have intel on in regards of them storing a chemical weapon. You need to make sure there are no Russians in order to not cause an international incident. This shows off how well the new weapon handling models are of better feel and shooting compared to previous games, that were already pretty stellar. You can aim down sights while reloading, which is the first for the series and one of my favorite things about the entire game. You can also mount on corners and cover to steady your aim and change how well you shoot at times. As you progress through the rather short intro level, you get to see the first dark area of the game, which shows off how well the lighting model is in this game. It is practically impossible to see around corners without the flashlight aimed properly, and I think it looks incredible at times. As you reach the end of the area, there's an ambush as someone else is trying to steal the chemical weapons outside of the Americans. Just like that, the story has a goal to go after.
John,
Haswell,
where are you?
occupied.
I've got a problem.
Russians?
Word travels fast.
This is where the series' main character, Captain Price, gets introduced via cutscene. I like this cutscene a lot, as it is a good nostalgia bit, but there's a moment shortly after that would have made this moment way better. You are then introduced to the second of the playable characters, Kyle Garrick. You're part of the SAS and you're watching a group carrying weapons. You knew ahead of time about a high probability of a terrorist attack being imminent. Of course, immediately there is an explosion and there are people shooting civilians and cops as you try to stop them all. You have to watch your fire as you make your way through, but for I believe the first time in the series, if you accidentally shoot civilians in the crossfire, you don't get a game over screen. You have to choose to be careful with your shots, and even try to save some hostages when capable. You're then in the real grand introduction of Captain Price, and I feel if they didn't have that cutscene earlier, this would have had way more impact. He saves you and is like a mysterious figure coming up to you. It's rather awesome with having played the rest of the series. This is one of the first realizations that this game isn't going to hold back with its visuals and story, as the hostage has a bomb strapped to him. You see how little time is left on the bomb, and you can't disarm it. Price then pushes him over the edge in order to save everyone else. I'm pretty sure they went past the time left on the timer, but I'll let it slide since it was close enough. This mission and situation was a lot for Kyle, and he really wants to get revenge and stop all this from happening again. They had intel, but didn't do anything about it. Sounds like the American government. Price then tells Kyle that he's going to join up with him, and my over-analytical mind always wonders how this works. Does he call HR? Does he get a raise or anything? Can he actually make this decision? Anyways, on to the next mission.
Responsibility.
On orders from the Wolf in Kazakhstan.
Alex
Alex is on the ground there looking for the stolen chems.
Well, he'll need the Liberation Force on his side, so have him contact the CO.
You know Commander Karim?
We're acquainted. Use my name, or they'll kill him.
Speaking of something being rather glossed over, you are now in Urzikstan and playing as Alex. Again, all I wanted was some information about how I got to this exact place. A minute or two of information isn't padding, especially for a 4-hour game. You go here to get information about the chemical weapons, and if Alex didn't mention Captain Price by name, he would have died before even getting to a meeting. They somehow got in contact with the local rebels. I guess they just happened to have them on speed dial or something. We're introduced to the leader here, Farah Karim. I believe Karim is the name she gave herself too, and you see her brother, Hadir. Both are very well acted, and you discuss plans to help take back part of the city under a man named Barkov, a leader of the Russians taking over Urzikstan. This mission is rather a stealth mission of sorts, and is very different from others in the series. You blend in with the regular civilians here, and have to gather explosives to cause a diversion to take some of the military away from the local military airbase. You sneak around, pretend to be a local worker with a cement block, and then need to destroy 2 helicopters that happen to fly in. Perhaps that was always part of the plan. I believe this mission is to be similar in tone to the second mission of the original Modern Warfare, with having people take over a small area and execute civilians. It could also be a coincidence, but this ties into them making a reboot/prequel. After you blend in some, you then need to make a makeshift silencer for your pistol by getting an oil filter. Pretty sure this doesn't work like this, but perhaps for this one instance it does. I doubt it though. After you destroy the helicopters, you then have to make a fast scramble out of there to get to the real objective, destroy the airbase, which is the next mission. Like the original game, all missions are extremely short for the most part, but the cinematic quality helps with some of this.
Barkov has an air force, so we have one too. Our seaplanes loaded with C4.
Alex, Hadir, Karim, and the rest of the Liberation is now at the airbase in order to invade it, but first you need to bombard it with some RC planes. It's a pretty smart use of current tech, and I'm pretty sure this is actually used now. However, I doubt to this extent. Other than the RC drones, this mission is really straightforward. You move to clear the base while finding and clearing armories on the way. There's plenty of hiding places for the AI too, and it feels like a well-made level to push through. You make your way to the main hangar with the last armory and clear it out, at which point you get surrounded and have to defend it until air support helps clear the rest. Like I said, it's a rather basic level, but you get the trust of the Liberation Forces and limit the enemy's air support around the area. But next up is one of my favorite levels in the entire game, even though it's basically just one building long.
3 SAS teams will get inside and connect the dots. If the Wolf is in possession of the stolen Russian gas in Urzikstan, we need to find him.
The next level has actually good information leading up to it. The intel that Kyle said his team had about the terrorist organizations earlier led them to a safe house in North London. You're going to go raid the building and get more information on the chemicals, and this level is the one with the night vision that was shown prior to release. You sneak your way up to the house, and it feels shockingly real, with the size of the area and the train in the background. You then slowly raid your way through each room with night vision. One wrong move or mistake and you'll likely die. No music or anything, and the level pulls it off extremely well. You even have a woman go after a baby, and you can kill her if you think she's going after a gun too. Once you're at the top, the same thing happens, but she's actually going after a detonator. Because of this hideout, you gain knowledge about where the main bad guy is, the Wolf. Some more character building between Alex and Karim is shown, and you then are with the Marines, bringing back another one of the favorites of the original series, Sergeant Griggs. However, I think he has a different voice actor here as well.
You Kareem?
All day.
Nice work hitting the Russians.
We share friends and enemies.
You push forwards and learn about tripwires here and keep moving towards the hospital where the Wolf is at. This is one of the only missions in the game that feature the Marines as well, so it's good to have Griggs here. When you reach the hospital, it is rather tight as you try to reach the room where the Wolf is at, all while disarming wires and clearing each room. It's a good combat heavy level. You then sneak up on the Wolf who is with a hostage. Not sure what he thought was going to happen. Normally the bad guy would try to escape during this type of situation. I wish they included more levels with the Marines in them, or at least gave this level some more depth, since it really is just move forward to the hospital, get to the top floor, and done. I'm not sure how I feel about this next level. It takes place with a US embassy, and there are a ton of people there ready to raid and take back the Wolf. If you've seen the movie 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, then you know what to expect from this level. I'm also pretty sure this movie is based on a book that is based on a true story. Not sure what parts are accurate or not, but this plays out almost exactly as the movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's a pretty good summer action war movie. As you make your way through the embassy, you meet up with Alex and friends and have to direct someone over the camera in order to help get a key card. This is an interesting gameplay design, and it's short enough that it doesn't overstay its welcome. You tell them what to do over the phone and watch them over the cameras until they reach the door towards the area where you are. Nothing new, but different from just shooting non-stop. You then make an escape out of the first building and reach the safe house and play out the scene from the movie. Visually, it's pretty good, with needing to shoot up flares in order to see the enemies to feeling pressure of an overwhelming force. This mission can be rather difficult though, especially on harder difficulties. On my first playthrough, I died several times when they breached the wall getting towards the area and having no way of getting safe. You then push back to where you stashed the wolf, and he was taken earlier among the chaos.
He's gone.
Tariq al-Maut, the highway of death. The Russians bombed it during the invasion.
The next level has some baggage behind it, as it was covered in some news articles leading up to the game, the Highway of Death. This is a war crime that was originally committed by the United States, but changed in this game to I guess serve the purpose of the story. I don't think they should have used a real world scenario like this. Before playing the game, I actually never heard of this. I guess that's the American school system at work there. But all I can say is that they really should have kept it true to what really happened, or perhaps changed the name altogether to avoid publicity caused by this. This level is just sniping and watching the wind, same as from the original Modern Warfare, but heavily expanded with the wind and bullet drop over multiple enemies, moving targets, as well as enemies coming up close. It's mostly fun. I had one issue where it seemed like during a scripted talk on the radio, I randomly started getting sniped from the next set of enemies that I'm pretty sure were supposed to come into play later, especially since my character kept talking like he wasn't about to die. Eventually, you get overwhelmed and have to take to another tactic. Hadir leads you to a truck, and this is where you learn that he was the one who stole the chemical weapons at the beginning of the game, and he uses them now to help their cause. You then had to rush inside to get a gas mask. This was a decent twist that I guess I didn't expect him to have the gas, but he did seem more violent in general compared to Karim.
We had no choice, Bella. All bets are off now.
No, not like this.
A quick heads up regarding the next level. It depicts the use of chemical warfare on people as well as animals. If you don't like this or are faint of heart, I'll put a timestamp here to skip to. With that done, you are now in a flashback level of Kareem as a child. You're under some rubble and you see your mom next to you. A massive bombing occurred here, and you get rescued from some people as well as your father. This part is done rather well to me. You see the sheer chaos and panic of people, but have people working together to help the injured. Then there's another bomb to add to the chaos. As you get towards the house of your dad, a chemical explosion goes off, the same one used in present day. When you reach the house, you're reunited with your brother as a military man shows up at the house. He kills your dad and you need to fight him off. This part is pretty poor. You need to sneak around the house and use cover in order to flank the guy from the back, but first you need to get a screwdriver that's on the ground. The first time I played this, I remember this part being rather hard, but now I just ran under the same table 3 times and eventually killed him. I didn't care for this part at all, but I guess it's just a kid taking on a guy the size of the Hulk. I feel I could have made this part better, or maybe try and have you and Hadir jump at the guy at the same time when he wasn't paying attention. Anything other than the usual video game thing of hitting the boss 3 times. When you leave the house, you see some true horrors of chemicals as well as killing animals too. I know they felt the need to include this, but I always hated seeing animals hurt, even fictional ones. You make it towards a clearing and have to steal a gun in order to escape. You do so, and you're suddenly surrounded by Barkov and taken prisoner. Shows why Karim hates him and wants to kill him so badly in modern day.
My brother always wanted to fight without rules. Now he's broken all of them.
With that, the hunt for the wolf and Hadir begins, as well as the butcher, who was seen at the beginning of the game during the embassy level. You're in a briefing with the main crew, and Karim agrees to go hunt Hadir too, even though he is her brother. The one in charge of the group, Laswell, gives everyone execute authority. Not sure how that works, but maybe she has to fill out some paperwork later. Also, I'm pretty sure she's part of the American team leading the group of the SAS. I don't actually know how that works, honestly. You learn about a stronghold building that the butcher uses and are going to go raid it. Something about the layout of this level reminds me of the movie Zero Dark 30, but looking it up now, that level at least doesn't look like it. You start off with another night vision clearing of the building and learn about an underground cave system that you need to go clear. I know why they didn't make this part night vision, but I feel maybe a flashlight would have been nice to help see, even if it would give away your position, but at times it makes this level kinda hard. It's very claustrophobic and works towards this level's strong suit at least, as you make your way through, and then you get separated from Karim, who then helps save you shortly after, again building some of the bond between her and Alex. When you reach the end, you find the wolf with a bomb strapped to him and kill him in order to disarm the bomb. You have to cut the wires at the exact right time that Karim says, or else you'll die like me. In my mind, I didn't expect her to say cut. I just thought it would be right after she said 1, so I failed here once. After this mission, Karim and her forces are no longer assets because of Hadir. They even had proof that it was just him, but I guess they needed to add tension and separate the main crew too. I'm pretty sure if one small group of something did something bad, you don't automatically cut ties with the good part. Next up is another flashback level.
Farah, sister, wake up.
Adair, is that you?
Yes, let me see you.
You are playing as Kareem again, and you are 10 years ago, as well as 10 years being a prisoner. Hopefully that makes sense. She's been a prisoner since she was taken in the previous flashback, and this is 10 years after that, and 10 years prior to the present. Anyways, you hear quickly about a message that is believed to have failed, and wonder if Barkov knows that Farah is Kareem. The first time I played this, that line went completely over my head, and I just didn't know you were actually Kareem. You go get waterboarded here, and they actually made this in the gameplay, and I think this was a poor choice. You answer questions and then get waterboarded again, all while being praised for doing well at it. You get praised for not drinking water and breathing well. Odd choice. They bring in another prisoner and get asked to admit about knowing who Kareem is. The first time I played this, I said he is dead and Barkov shot the prisoner. This time, I admitted it was me and he let her live. There seems to be no story consequences here, as the same thing happens no matter what. You make a prison break here, and this appears to be one of, if not the first time Kareem uses a gun outside of the time as a child. You can't reload like how Alex and Kyle does throughout the game, and this is a nice little detail. You can tell she's learning here, and it's a good touch. As you reach the end to save your brother, you get rescued by Price, who is a lieutenant at this point. You have to save some people together, even though Price says they're burning the files instead of mentioning the dying people. At least they didn't use the chemical weapons here. Back to the present time again with another familiar face, Nikolai.
Easy shot.
Tempting. Oh, how fast? The butcher gets us to Hadir.
Or the gas attack goes off.
Well, if that happens, then we're all fucked.
You were in Russia tracking down the butcher. This level is 100% linear as you chase him down, even though you need to use Russia-specific weapons so no one knows that others were involved. Nothing special really happens here, even though there seems to be way too many enemies here, but it's still Call of Duty. Gotta shoot. When you capture him and put him in a van with Nikolai, you then hold off some enemies before the cops show up. Again, one of the few basic levels in the game that ends with the scene focusing on the butcher. Since he is captured and doesn't talk, you bring in his family to help. Technically you can skip this part if it's too much for the player, as I believe you can kill the family here too. First time though, I killed the butcher after he gave the information. I just thought I was supposed to. This time he stayed alive and I walked out after he gave me the information. They even have a point here where another person walks out of the room, I guessing to show that it's okay if you're uncomfortable with this mission. Perhaps it was due to the torture scene from Grand Theft Auto 5. There are a few tactics to use, but I always just pull the trigger on the gun since it was unloaded and he didn't toss right after you add bullets to the gun. Not really as brutal as they probably intended.
Current catheter.
Lying.
No, I am not. I swear to you, I'm not. The gas is there. Current catheter. I swear to you.
We're now in the home stretch with the levels, and we're now my favorite mission in the entire game, and possibly series. You have to explore the map in the cover of darkness in order to help find Hadir. You get 3 locations and get to pick which order to go to and how to tackle each one. You can take down the power of each place to ensure that it is dark for you to sneak around through. After each one, there's some more enemies that come around, including a vehicle that drives around too. The entire time you're outside, Captain Price watches over you to help when needed. However, anytime you're inside, it's just you. I only messed up myself one time when I accidentally shot out the light above a group of people, but I managed to fix it.
Well, that was close.
The only complaint I have for this level is that the dialogue you hear from people interrogating the hostage is that they repeat very often.
I'll do.
After you get the intel from the final hostage, you go to the main house at the center of the map. Surprise, Hadir is inside and claims he's just trying to help the liberation group with the chemicals. I believe him, but he's still crazy. You have to make an escape now and also get a line from the original game here from Captain Price.
On your feet, we are leaving!
As you escape, you take Hadir into custody and have to give him over to the Russians, and he's out of the story from here. Perhaps he'll make a comeback in the revamped sequel they do.
Hadir located Barkov's lab in eastern Georgia.
Gas factory.
He had plans to destroy it.
Now, the rather underwhelming finale of the game. You're doing a full-on assault to the place that seems to be making the chemical weapons. You are attacking it with the help of Kareem and the US forces, even though they said Kareem wasn't technically an ally anymore. You make your way through the area as Alex, and eventually get inside the facility. When you get around back, you receive the explosives to destroy the place from Nikolai, and then push forward inside to the worst part of the level. There's a juggernaut blocking the path for some unknown reason. I really hate enemies in first-person shooters that take way too many bullets to kill, especially on one as grounded as Modern Warfare. Eventually you take down the giant marshmallow man and find out that the detonator for the bomb has been destroyed during this fight. When you reach the spot, Alex offers to sacrifice himself here for the cause, and Kareem doesn't want to allow this to happen. At least they build a connection between these two characters throughout the game, but Alex could have had more character growth to him. He just does it because he feels it was a good cause to die for instead of always being told his mission. He then switches to Kyle as he places the last of the explosives to have Alex get ready to blow the place. You didn't see Barcrow trying to make an escape, but Kareem happened to be on the helicopter with him. You have to sneak up to kill him, but apparently if you don't do it the way the game wants, he'll kill you instantly when he turns around. I guess this is meant to bring similarities to when she was a kid killing her first bad guy. You have to crawl under and be directly behind him to do a stealth attack. It's a good finale for the most part, even though Nikolai is somehow the one flying the helicopter. Not sure how he pulled that off. The final cutscene is the introduction to the original Modern Warfare. You hear about a mention of General Shepard too, although he is from Modern Warfare 2. Price wants to assemble a team and learns about the Zakhaevs trying to take up power. This is also where you learn that Kyle Garrick is Gaz. That was his nickname the whole time but never mentioned it. You also get the mention of Soap here and Simon Riley. I read that Simon Riley is actually Ghost too. I always thought Ghost in Modern Warfare 2 was Gaz since they sounded the same, but rumor is that Ghost is actually Alex. Perhaps they just used Ghost to fill in the characters that have died or something. I'm not actually sure. Maybe it's the dog from Call of Duty Ghost. But that's the story mode. Wraps up nice and tidy with only a few errors in the story that could have been fixed in a line or two. You also see Kamarov at the end here too. Guess I had to put all the reference here at some point. Overall, it was a great campaign to play through. The multiplayer for Modern Warfare is by far the best in the series to me. Just about every map included is great, excluding a few that seem to have too much running around open areas. They constantly have added some classics from the original series, as well as some new ones at times, and it's the first time that they've been getting added for free instead of selling map packs. You have the same list of game modes as usual, but they added a couple that stand out over the rest. If you played Call of Duty before, the main modes are nothing new, but still fun. From Domination, Team Deathmatch, Hardpoint, Kill Confirmed, and so on. All works out great. What changed though, is the two major new modes that they added, Ground War and Gunfight. Ground War is by far my favorite mode in this entire game, even though two of the maps in it are pretty bad. Ground War is essentially Battlefield about the destruction of buildings or domesticized maps, but it is modern day style Battlefield, and those are some of my favorite shooters ever made, so this fills in some of that void for me. If you never played a control in a Battlefield game, your goal is to capture usually 5 objectives on the map. What makes it so good is that there are 64 players in a match, and there's usually fighting going on throughout the map, all separate from everyone else. You have your own mini squad to respawn in on and work together during these matches to help push the objectives, unless they happen to just want to snipe during the entire match. I really enjoy these because while you're fighting on one point, there's another massive battle going on in another spot. Where this mode comes up short from Battlefield is the maps. There's one map in particular that I really don't like, Promenada. I may also be pronouncing that wrong. It is a straight line of points that you have to try and push through, however the map is slightly slanted giving the advantage towards one of the teams. The main problem is that this map shouldn't allow vehicles and perhaps should disable kill streaks. You can't really move anywhere on the sidelines of this map, and since there's vehicles, you can't really do anything about it unless you sacrifice your secondary weapon for a rocket, which I'm not really willing to do. But other than this map, the rest have good ways to flank around and tackle the objectives in any order, with the chaos that the kill streaks add as well as some of the vehicles. Again, this is my favorite mode in the game, but it's also due to my love for the Battlefield series. The other major mode included was Gunfight. This mode is what came out of the beta ahead of the game, and it's 2 versus 2 with a random weapon each round that all players must use. When playing for this video though, they had 3 versus 3, so that's why it's different here. I really like this mode as well, at least when you have a good team. I had one person quit, so it was 2 versus 3, and that wasn't very fun, but I was also learning the map too, so there's some blame on me there. I did have some good matches later, and even had a round where I had 10 kills, which may be a tad much, but I felt my team wasn't doing anything. Perhaps that's usual when playing with randoms in a Call of Duty game. I'm glad this mode is still here, and it's a good challenge at times. With the rest of the modes, nothing really has changed. However, I didn't see the night vision mode. I remember playing this mode around release, and perhaps I took it down since I haven't seen it since. But Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed are probably my recommendations since you don't really have to rely on teammates helping you push objectives. Overall, this is the best multiplayer in the series, and with the addition of the fast-paced running and movement speeds, it feels great. That, and the new weapon customization, it all works. You pick several different types of attachments for your gun, from muzzle, barrel, stock, perk, and so on. It lets you fine-tune the weapon to your playstyle, and I hope future games in the series do this too, as I think it's the best new feature added to this entire game. Warzone is by far the biggest mode in this game, and it's not a main reason a lot of people play Modern Warfare. They even made it free to play, and with all the multiplayer being cross-play, you'll find a game in a few seconds every time, unlike my time recently of Blackout on Black Ops 4. Warzone is a tad different from other Battle Royales, and I honestly think it's the best one, even though I probably had more fun at times with Apex Legends. You drop down onto the map of 150 players, either in squads, trios, duos, or solo, and like other Battle Royales, you have to scavenge for weapons. Unlike other Battle Royales though, you start off with a pistol, making your first encounter less one-sided at times. The main goal is to survive of course, but they added other incentives and goals to focus on while playing. You collect money to be able to purchase unlocks at buy stations, from getting armor plates for you and your team, killstreak rewards such as a UAV, and even a loadout drop. This is the biggest change that Warzone does over other Battle Royales. Your weapons that you've been customizing and leveling up during the multiplayer are able to be brought into these matches, as well as all the perks. This gives you an advantage as well as being able to be more comfortable with your chances of winning. The other big changes and improvements is the gulag system. When you die in the match, you go into a 1 versus 1 gunfight match. Lately though, it seems that they always try and give you a sniper or something, and these matches can be rather rough at times. But if you manage to win here, you get to drop back into the match and join your team again. If you fail, your team is able to buy you back with the cash that they have been picking up. The other objectives I mentioned earlier are many things that you pick up, such as making yourself most wanted and appear on the map for a few minutes. If you survive, you get money and your fallen teammates come back. There are bounties that let you track the local area of an enemy, scavenge contracts to help you find more loot, and even a zone control. All of these help you earn money to be able to purchase more things at buy stations, and give extra experience too. These are all great things that they added to the mode to make it more worthwhile. Unless you're like me and accidentally grab a most wanted bounty near the end so everyone knows where you are. The only downsides to this mode is the hacking. Honestly, I haven't come across any myself, so I can't speak much, if at all, about it. I know it's a problem and I've seen videos for it. Most of the time it's the aimbot people. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it's essentially a mod players add to the game to let you be able to immediately aim to a player, usually at their head, at any time no matter their distance. They've been going after these players a lot, and perhaps that's why I haven't seen any. The only other things I know is people happen to somehow glitch under the map. Not sure how they find doing these things any fun. I'm going to do a quick example of how these matches go, at least for a rather good run. You do the warm-up match, hopefully you get some kills or something to feel like your reaction time is still good, or hang out in the air until the match starts. You are then in a big-ass AC-130 plane, and are getting ready to drop onto the map. You and your team then check the map to decide where you want to land, either try and get some early kills or fast money to get a loadout. Then as you get down to the ground, you make sure that there isn't too many enemies nearby, and kill the ones that you can. Proceed with doing some mini objectives if possible, and get rewarded for survival. If you or a teammate gets taken out, then it's gulag time and maybe you'll beat the other guy. Then back to the match to hope for the best. Keep moving towards the circle while tracking who is nearby. Like a time where my teammate saw one person and I noticed the team directly next to us that they missed. Yet for some reason they fled. When the circle is smaller, this is the best time to do the team shots, or perhaps see random people trying to sneak around. If you do well, then you win. This is the entirety of the mode, and for some reason doing this is some of the most fun you can have at times. At times, it can even give off some horror game vibes too, since you never know what's going to happen next. I know this mode can be frustrating at times too, but for me, I just like reaching close to the top. That feels like an accomplishment to me. I hate the new Spec Ops in Modern Warfare, to the point where I can't actually talk too much about it because I was unable to do too much of it, other than the first 3 missions of it. Unlike the Spec Ops in Modern Warfare 2, this one puts you into the Warzone map, at least one part of it, and as you try and do a few objectives with a few other players. Trying to communicate with them though without a headset can be one of the most challenging things to do, even with the pinging system. I even tried for about 2 minutes to tell a guy to open a door and he just jumped next to me the whole time. This mode is awful and not worth your time. You get some mini cutscenes and information to go into them as well, and nothing major happens though. You get to a spot, kill some enemies, open an area, and then you got to defend against waves of enemies. Repeat this for about 20 or 30 minutes, depending on how well your team performs. If you do end up playing this game, I recommend saving some hard drive space and deleting this section of the game.
American youth today has its fringes, but that's part of the greatness of our country.
So the reason I'm adding this here is because they added some elements of the new ARG for Black Ops into Warzone. This will be rather brief since it isn't actually part of the game. As of recording this, there's only a few elements uncovered, and based off how this is going so far, any day now will be the reveal of Black Ops Cold War. They released a website to visit that tells the clues and gives some history of the Cold War era, and perhaps more depending on what gets added to the website. But they added clues here that link into Warzone that is just a little elements of the ARG. I felt it was interesting, but there's also ciphers and stuff on the map that I'll be unable to figure out, but it's cool that they're going all out with this, even though the game isn't announced yet it comes out in like 3 months. There's also a quick flash of something that Black Ops related when playing Warzone. It's rather hard to actually get into the room in Warzone since people are trying to camp it or so to figure stuff out themselves. It's a smart play on their behalf to build some hype up for the game. So that is Modern Warfare. I probably went into more detail than needed, but I thoroughly enjoyed this game and how much it made the series relevant and good again. If you've seen my other videos, you would know that World War II is my favorite in the series until this came out, and it's probably because of how grounded this game is. Modern day war is extremely hard to do at times, especially because of how easy it is to do something wrong story-wise, offensive to some people, or just bland in other cases. There's one game that was a bit too real back in the Xbox 360 era that ended up being cancelled because of how recent the events were. It's really difficult to tread on that line between real events and fictional. Modern Warfare succeeded for the most part with this, even with the stumble of the Highway of Death. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Feel free to subscribe and leave feedback. I plan on doing other games soon, most likely starting with Ghost of Tsushima or maybe even the Kingdom Hearts series. I'm a tad worn out of first-person shooters at the moment. See you all